Welcome, everybody. This is two EdTech guys, take questions and share cool stuff. But for reasons about to be explained, it's three EdTech folks. Wow. All right. So we are doing things a little differently today because this was Richard's morning. He woke up and pretty much had the snowpocalypse. So his power is coming back tomorrow, apparently.
Oh.
And as someone in coastal California, I'm kind of in that better him than me category, but that may be bad karma on my part. So in the just saying. Now, we're going to toss out a few thank yous before I introduce you to the cool folks who are part of this shindig. First of all, to Richard and all the cool things he does at Free Tech for Teachers. Over 15,000 blog posts this dude has put out to help people see possibilities in all kinds of tech that's out there. And what's it going to cost you? Free, hence the name, right? Next week, there is the National Catholic Education Association virtual conference because the in-person shindig has gone the way of many in-person shindigs. But the upshot of that for you is that you can register for free. You're like, wow, that's incredible. Where's the link to that? It's something I'll get into the chat very soon once I hand this over to somebody else. But you can register for free. You can hear people like me talk and all good. It's a great crowd. And you know, if Barb in Nebraska and other people are joining in right now, way cool. Additionally, I should say hey to all of the cool folks in Fowler Unified and at the Jerome. Fowler, yeah. And then
Fresno.
I know, Susan Stewart. Susan Stewart and I do a shindig on Wednesday. Actually, Wednesday's up to start with Thursdays next week, where we talk about activities across grade levels. We want to say hey to all the good folks from Jerome. We've got Sean, principal of the Fall City Academy, joining us in the attendees. Rock and roll. And we're just happy to meet you. So I want you to meet these cool people I'm working with. So first of all, I'm Rushton. I run a little thing called Next Vista for Learning. What's that, you say? Well, I'm glad you asked. What that is an online video library by and for teachers and students everywhere, free to use, free to contribute to, free to download from. It's all for a student audience. It's all screen content. It's my own little attempt to save the universe from ignorance, one creative video at a time. Boop, right there. So that's me. And we got loads of videos on communities around the world, service to others, careers. We're trying to build the largest collection of free videos for English language learners anywhere. If you're interested, stay in touch. I'll be happy to share that. The whole idea is to keep the learning going, right? And you need to meet some of these great people that I am working with a minute. So I'm going to pause share and Holly, talk to us. Yeah. Holly is joining us.
So I'm joining you. I know it doesn't seem possible, but from San Diego, California, also Central Perth, just in case you might know about it, because of the person who you'll hear from next put these backgrounds together. And I am the author of the Google Infused Classroom, the Microsoft Infused Classroom, and also the Chromebook Infused Classroom coming out early June. And that's me.
Very cool. Jesse, talk to us.
Hi, my name is Jesse Lubinsky. I am the Chief Learning Officer for Ready Learner One. I'm coming to you from New York. First, Rushton, I do appreciate the Star Wars reference. You know me, I love my pop culture stuff. And actually, because I love my pop culture stuff, as Holly mentioned, I put together a folder of Zoom backgrounds with pop culture references. As I shared right before we started recording, I learned, unfortunately, after the fact that my computer could not handle the Zoom background. So I'm jealously watching Holly take advantage of one of those Zoom backgrounds. I think they can actually be found at bit.ly/backgrounds for Zoom. That's a Google Drive folder where I just put all these different pop culture backgrounds. And I'm also the co-author of Reality Bites, Innovative Learning using augmented virtual reality. And I contributed to the upcoming Chromebook Infused Classroom book that Holly just mentioned.
So awesome. Guys, get links in the chat for the stuff that you've been talking about. We'll get back to these wonderful slides we got. Let me explain how this is going to work. What we're going to do is we're going to each share some cool stuff. So our goal is to keep it down to like 60, no more than 90 seconds as we just share some cool stuff. And then we're going to start answering some questions. And all of us get questions from different people. So we'll be bringing some of the questions that we've been getting from the people we've been working with. In addition to anything you guys toss into the chat, you wonderful, cool people who have joined us for the recording itself. And we're excited to share our ideas on that front with you. Hopefully that they'll be helpful to you going forward. And you're welcome to stick around after we stop the recording because we'll just keep answering questions, right? That's just the wonderful people we are. You're so nice. Happy to help. All right. So let's start with Holly on the share front. We're going to talk a little bit about Book Bento. Make it happen.
So I had to do this one because of you, Russian, and your love of the Japanese culture. So the book bento I learned from Lisa Heifel, and it is a way to have kids share what they know about books. And so they compartmentalize it the way that a bento box is done. If you go to the next slide, and it comes out looking like this. So if you look at the outsiders, this kid has chosen a few things that really represent what's happening in that book for them. They can put it in a Google slide, they can do it in a Canva, whatever, but here's the creme de la creme for me of the book bento. Now that we're doing remote and distance learning, if we go to the next slide, students that I worked with in Oklahoma, they took that and they put it into Seesaw, and then they recorded the why. They made their thinking visible around that book bento. So this is around a short story called An Appointment with Love that happens at Grand Central Station with a soldier, and over writing letters and meeting someone he thinks he's in love with. And so they put those pictures together, and then they made their thinking visible. So we're using a HyperDoc, we're using Seesaw, and we're doing some good learning. But what's next is amazing. So if you go to the next slide, check this out. This is a new tool I'm obsessed with. It's called Brush.Ninja. And this Brush.Ninja gives you these blank kind of screens where you can do one picture, then you go to the next blank screen and do the next picture, and then the next picture, and then you press play, and it makes this. So here's a kid, I just found this on Brush.Ninja's teacher page. This isn't something my students have done or students I work with, but we can see someone's doing one around DNA and maybe the other, I don't know what the other one is, maybe RNA, but and doing one around math. And so that's a way to show learning. Now, of course, you know me, I want to put this into like a Seesaw or a Flipgrid and tell me the process you took in the learning to make this. But how cool is this Brush Ninja? And Jesse, as I did this, I was thinking it's a good thing we're not doing demo slams anymore.
I'm writing down, it's funny you say that because I'm writing everything down as you're showing, because I'm like, oh, I wish I would have had that available for a demo slam. That's awesome.
Awesome stuff, Holly. All right, Jesse, you got a quick share. What you got?
So this is a shameless self-promotion quick share, but you know, Russian asked me to show one thing, and instantly I'm thinking of like 100 different things, and I was like, wait, here's something that, and I want to preface this by saying, you know, during this pandemic, this is not necessarily a time to be trying to overhaul your how you do things and do something new. But if you're interested in kind of dabbling in what the future might be bringing, I know a lot of people have been talking about, well, how is education going to change as a result of this pandemic? So are we going to use this as an opportunity to completely revisit how we do things, or are we looking to get out of this pandemic and just go back to normal? I'm hoping that we're going to be able to kind of look at practices that we've had and maybe see how we could shift some of those. And so some people have approached us since we wrote the book on virtual reality. How does VR play a role here? And AltSpace VR is just one tool that I really love. People have been looking to take some of these conferences that they haven't been able to attend and move them online or move to virtual meetings. And I actually attended a conference last week in AltSpace VR where I was able to just put on my headset. I was in a virtual room, like a big meeting room. There was a stage. There were a bunch of panelists up on stage. Slides were shared. And after it was over, we had a social, and we were able to walk around the room and interact with people who were in the room with us. And, I did share some screenshots, which if you check my Twitter feed, you'll see them. But one thing I'm excited to announce, and this is the shameless self-promotion part, my company, Ready Learner One, we are actually starting a weekly show. So AltSpace is owned by Microsoft, and they are actually making our Ready Learner One Lounge one of their featured shows. So we'll be having a variety of different education and social VR guests to kind of give you a sense of what the possibilities are for this type of technology. And I know the big question is, do I have to have one of these crazy VR headsets in order to be able to do this? The answer is no. That's one of the reasons I love AltSpace. It is available in the Windows Store. It's just a quick download. So even if you don't have a VR headset, while I do think the experience is totally enhanced through immersive VR, you can still participate and engage with other educators in these type of spaces from the comfort of your PC or laptop.
Question. So
yes.
like Teams now has raise your hand, which I'm loving, but I have a question. So is this only available on Windows because it's this alt whatever? And where could I get an immersive VR headset if I wanted to get all involved in this?
So, I mean, so this VR headset that I'm holding right here, this is the Oculus Quest. This is one step up from the Oculus Go, which is kind of the entry-level system. The reason I really love this one is this comes with 2 hand controllers. It does not require a computer. So if you've ever seen high-end VR headsets, they have to be tethered to a computer. Sensors need to be put all over the place. This is a standalone device. So I put this headset on, I have my controllers, I draw a little outline of my space so I don't run into the walls, and I can actually walk around these virtual spaces and move around. You can get them Amazon, anywhere. Well, right now there's an issue because obviously supply coming from overseas is being impacted. But in general, I mean, Best Buy, Amazon, anywhere they sell these type of headsets. And an Oculus Go runs about $200, whereas an Oculus Quest runs about $400. But again, for $400, you're actually getting a fully, the computer is built into here. The sensors are built into here.
Pretty cool.
And I will tell you, and this is the one thing, even with writing the book that we've really tried to make an effort with people, is you don't understand what it's like until you've actually put a headset on. And I know, Holly, I saw some pictures of you in London where you got to try on the VR headset. It's a totally different thing once you're immersed in VR. And I think you'll start to get a sense of what the learning opportunities are for students and what the possibilities are by participating. But the nice part about this, I know we're all feeling a little claustrophobic and trapped in our houses and wish we can get out there. The other night, I put on my headset, went to a conference with 50 other educators, socialized, took it off, and I was kind of like, oh my God, I was just in another room with people. It felt like I was actually there. We were taking selfies. We're looking at cityscape. It was incredible. So keep an eye out. We'll give out our social media information later, but we're going to be, our first episode is actually going to be on April 21st at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And from then on, Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern time will be our regular Ready Learner One Lounge show. And we're super excited. And, maybe Holly and Rushton will dare to join us.
I'll be there.
As guests. All right. But we're going to want you sharing just like this. Imagine this show, but in VR where we're all in the same room together. That's what we're thinking.
Very cool.
You beat me again.
So Peggy asks in the chat, does AltSpace VR work on Macs?
So no, it's Windows based or headset based.
Okay. So my guess is that's for the time being, right? Anything that works well, they figure it out. Hey, a lot of Microsoft love happening.
And again, AltSpace is just one.
Microsoft's back, Rushton.
Rock and roll.
That now.
All good. So my share is wideopenschool.org. All right. And this is, if you're just kind of like, hey, I need something now. I need something right now for my students. This is something that was put together actually with the thought that people right now need something cool to be able to go to. And so they've got all of these, if you go in as an educator, you're going to find like all of these different, kind of field trips you can do. I clicked on the, I think grade 6 to 12 field trips and got a screenshot there on the left of this. I found myself in front of the jellyfish cam going, wow. If I were someone who engaged in illicit substances, it probably happened for hours, but I'm not. So there you go. Anyway, there are all kinds of cool things there. There's a really neat thing, from the Met that gives you a sense of kind of possibilities for looking in a museum with an exhibit about ancient Egypt. Really, really cool stuff. Now, you're going to find all of these things. Once I have updated the page, you can go to the page right now. Will it have everything? Not at the moment, but later today I will have all that in. And if you registered for this bad boy that we got going on right now, I'll get you an email that lets you know. Now, you've probably got some questions, and we're going to start with one that I know Holly's been working with a lot lately, which is, and while I understand that this could be like an all-day response because of how broad it is, still, like make it happen in concise terms if you can. Assessment. How do I get kids, who are online right now to kind of work with assessment? Can you give me 2 or 3 ideas on that front so that I can meaningfully check that they understand this stuff without making it so basic that it's kind of boneheaded?
And so are you, I
That's
missed.
to you, Holly. That is so to you. Go make it happen.
Well, and Jesse, I'm sure, has amazing ideas, but I have been going down the rabbit hole of assessment because the first thing that brought me in that rabbit hole is I saw a tweet that said, how do I get kids not to cheat online? And then Nick Provenzano tweeted back, if you're asking that question, you're doing it wrong. And that's exactly right. And so that, so that example I gave earlier of that book Bento, I put it into Seesaw and I made student thinking visible. And if you think about it, if you press record, and I want to buy a t-shirt that says press record, and if you are having kids explain their thinking around something, there's no way that they can cheat. If you're asking them multiple choice questions and you're putting it into a Google form or a Microsoft form, then they can just be like, Mom, I need some help, and whatever. So what we want to get at now in our assessment pieces are larger projects where students at the end explain to you the process they took and not the process that their parents took, going back to like missions that fourth grade parents all over California have built for the last 20 years. Now kids can build them and tell you about the process and build them in things like Minecraft back at Microsoft again. So that's the rabbit hole I'm going around, and it's simple. Press record. We have Flipgrid, we have Seesaw, we have Screencastify, we have Screencast-O-Matic. You can press record all over, and so that's what we have to do to alleviate that.
Very, very cool stuff. Hey, while we're working with the expertise, you know, another question that comes up is, and this kind of builds off of the wide open school bit right there as well. Jesse, if I want somebody to really look at something so that they can take it and begin to think, okay, you know, this is immersive, you know, maybe 360-degree video, whatever it might be, you know, what's an activity with that? They get in, they get a chance to kind of see this stuff, but what is an activity that allows them to then take that and connect it to stuff that they've been doing as a part of their studies?
So, you know, it's interesting, and it's funny because the first thing I thought of was I had done an episode of Holly's EduSlam thing and shared some VR and AR tools that kind of do this. But I guess taking a step back from there, what we've tried to do, and we did the way we structured our book Reality Bites, was we structured it not based on the technology, but based on the application to teaching and learning. So I think Holly would totally agree with me when I say this, but you know, the nervous part about writing an EdTech book is by the time it goes to your publisher for edits, you know, you're worried that in that time that it's in for editing, that the technology change and evolve so that what you wrote isn't applicable anymore. And VR and AR are moving so fast that we recognized that was the problem. And we grounded the book in a learning framework we created called the ABC framework. So it's absorb, blend, and create. So rather than think about the technology, and I think this is an old EdTech problem where we tend to think about the technology and say, oh, this is a cool technology, now I want to apply this to what I'm doing because it's great or it's cool or whatever. Our thing is take a look at your learning objectives first, right? And we took the different technologies that are out there and collected stories from 30 plus educators and aligned them to absorb, blend, and create under both AR and VR. So not just introducing you to some different technologies, but how these different technologies apply to teaching and learning. And within that, we actually connected it to standards and frameworks that teachers were familiar with. So for each story we collected, we tied it to the ISTE student framework, the ISTE educators, the 5 E's, the 4 C's, the SAMR model, because these are all things that teachers have become familiar with over time. And in general, when we talk about EdTech, we need to be grounding EdTech in the teaching and learning. And I think that's something that Holly's been really great of doing with her Infuse series. And I think it's a model that, you know, we've been looking to emulate too with the work that we do.
Very cool. Hey, Jesse, an earlier question in the chat has to do with the Zoom backgrounds. Can you share the link to that folder? So put that
sure.
bit.ly together and add that in. While you're doing that, Holly, I know you've been getting a lot of questions on your work lately. So what is one that you know a lot of people tend to have?
Well, you mentioned the first one, which was assessments. And then a lot of people are asking about doing video calls. And not to go like Microsoft totally in this call, because I'm a big, huge Google fan and I don't mean to go all Microsoft, but I'm so impressed recently with Teams and the ability to have these. So it just came out yesterday, the ability to have reports, how long a kid was in your call, what time they got there,
Mm-hmm.
if you signed work in that call, did they go look at it? When is the last time they looked at that work? And so when people are asking stuff about video calls, it's usually around like, how do I track kids, whatever. And this is why I'm loving Microsoft Teams. And just as a little side note for people who are Googlers like me, well, I'm not a Googler, but like a Google fan, Microsoft has a beta thing, and I can give you a link that you could put in all of this stuff later, Russian, that if you have a Google account, you can sign in to Microsoft stuff and go look at those teams. And they have channels that you can have kids in certain channels and not in other channels. And it's blowing my mind how great this product is for this environment.
Good stuff. And thanks, Jesse, for getting that particular bit.ly into the chat for that. Patricia has like a piece in the chat as well. Want to record my Zoom teaching so my students can rewatch. Tips or hints to record Zoom and upload to Google Classroom.
So when you first get into the meeting, it gives you an option in the right-hand side of whether or not you want to record that. And so you got to choose that option. And then when you get to the actual meeting, at the bottom will be, well, Russian, you're probably doing it right now. Why don't you?
Doing it right now. Matter of fact, Holly's pointing to kind of an important piece of thinking about recording Zoom. All right, and let's talk about that from two angles real quick. Functionally, when you go to record, depending on the system you're on, it usually asks you, do you want to record to this computer or do you want to record to the cloud? If you have that option on a Chromebook, it's going to be the cloud piece, right? But on a Mac or Windows machine, record to the computer, that'll create an MP4 file that you can drop into an editor if you need to like get some, maybe somebody on the call coughs up a lung and you're like, well, I don't want that in there, right? And so you can kind of work that out that way as well. But also remember, when you think about recording these videos, it's like recording stuff in the classroom. Under FERPA rules, things like this, you want to make very, very sure that you are not putting like screenshots or screen capture videos of identifiable students and things like this out there to be shared broadly. This is material for you as a teacher in the context of your learning at your school. So that's a good thing to know. But even in the free accounts of Zoom, it allows you to record, which is really, really nice. I like Google Meet a lot. Matter of fact, if you haven't seen Eric Kurtz's, like I said, we'll try to get that link in there as well. He's got incredible tutorials for using Google Meet. But their recording feature is a premium one that they're offering for free at the moment, right? And so hopefully they'll shift gears and maybe make that a perpetually free thing. We'll see how that goes as we go. But great question about Zoom. There's a lot of stuff in the media about Zoom right now and privacy issues. And my gut feeling is that you're running into that same thing with all similar products. There are some differences.
Not Teams.
There are some differences, but
I feel bad getting on my high horse here about this.
I'll get you guys on this. All right, there are some differences, but mainly the issue is, what do you do with what you are using, right? And so, as fast as the different pieces change, like Zoom introduced a whole bunch of new pieces in the last few days that address some of the privacy concerns that were in the media before. So remember that whatever you see, by the time it makes it to a news site, may already be out of date. So check those things. And Holly and Jesse, you guys chime in on this as well.
I'm trying to remain calm because I was getting very heated the last few days about the Zoom issue. So New York City, for instance, issued a ban on using Zoom. Now, keep in mind, everything is kind of being built like an airplane in midair, right? So, teachers were sent home, then they were told to use Zoom. They figured that out, and then they were told, now don't use Zoom, now switch over to either Meets or Teams. And there were two issues. While I totally am sensitive to the fact that there are, as a former director of technology, I recognize how important data privacy concerns are. If you read some of the issues that or reasons that they were asking people to move away from Zoom, it was things like Zoom bombing, which I'm sure you've read about in the news, and that had nothing to do with data privacy. That had to do with having an understanding of modifying settings and getting to the heart of things, not training or supporting educators in terms of how to use a tool. So that goes back to the importance of instructional coaches or providing support for educators. So I do recognize that student privacy has to come above all, but we need to be a little bit reflective right now and recognize that some of the issues we're talking about have nothing to do with the tool itself, but with the way that the tool is being configured for use.
Yes.
Now, to the question that was being asked here about, I saw a question in the chat about just advice for using Zoom and uploading to Classroom. My general recommendation, I'm glad that Rushton said that, you know, recording on your computer so that you can make quick edits if you have to. And again, it doesn't require a, you know, a PhD in video editing in order to do that. Very simple to make some of those cuts. But if you're then going to upload it to YouTube, remember to use an unlisted setting. That's the most important thing, is to make sure. That's one of the ways that if you're, you know, you can avoid a lot of these privacy concerns or questions you might have by ensuring that it's not a public video to the internet, that it is something that is being confined to when you post that unlisted video, only people with that link can see that video.
And just one last thing, like with Zoom, of course, it was all about your user error, but I do like the tiles in Zoom. And that is, I mean, it is one thing that's coming to Teams, but like right now, I love being able to see all the kids. And so I gotta say, I love it.
Yeah, there's so many interesting things that are coming up as a part of this. Like one of the strongest things about Google's tool, right, is the ability to do instantaneous captioning, right? You know, so you could be doing slides on that, and what you're saying suddenly becomes captions. That's great for kids who you know need to both see it and hear it, and actually really good for people who don't need to see it, but allows them to perhaps follow the argument all the more easily. A couple more things I'll add, and then we'll wind down, stop the recording, and then just keep going with all the attendees. And that's that Peggy has added a couple of wonderful things in the chat that I want to get shout outs for, and also encourage those of you who are watching the recording to click on the links from the chat in this episode on the webinars page at nextvista.org. And what those are, first of all, Steve Dotto has done a really cool set of video tutorials on Zoom Video Basics. We'll get that set in there as well. And then the wildly cool Scott Merrick, all right, has done some step-by-step tips for using Minecraft Education Edition.
Yay!
I know. And one of the things I found yesterday I didn't know about is that Reporters Without Borders has created in Minecraft the Uncensored Library, and it's this. It's amazing, right? It's one of these things that's designed to address, you know, like that places around the world may have censored X or Y or Z, and they've brought these things together in a Minecraft space that looks like, you know, like a big, you know, intense library, and it's beautiful and interesting, and part of the way the internet has upended all kinds of things, you know, near and far.
And you can use Minecraft on a Chromebook.
Indeed. We like those things that can be used across all devices for sure. Reminder to everybody that what we do as educators is that we care for our students, we care for their learning, and in order to do both of those things, we care for ourselves. If you are spending loads and loads of times in front of a screen, get away, take a walk, get a little exercise, right? You know, whatever it takes, you know, just go up and down some steps, right? But you need to kind of be at your best, because our kids need us to be at our best right now, right? You know, we talk about privacy issues and video conferencing. They need to see our faces, right? They need to know that we're there, we're still excited about them and their possibilities for the future, and that we believe in them. And if the whole experience we're going through right now means that we're asking them to show their learning in ways that we haven't before, we may be discovering new possibilities in those kids that we didn't know about beforehand. And if so, that is a big whopping win.
Yep.
Now, my little shindig, nextvista.org, has a monthly newsletter. Please sign up for that. I'll get that in the chat as well for you. Every month I talk about cool things that are put out by people like Holly and Jesse and all sorts of people who've made great things available, right? You know, things you're going to want to watch or read or try or look at, blah, 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 right? Just lots and lots of cool things there. And so you can take a look at that. Holly, tell us a little bit about, actually, say what you're going to say, and then tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, well, the slides aren't moving. I don't know if you wanted them to move.
Oh, that is so rude of me. So let me see. So there we go. A little bit of caring action there, a little bit of caring, all right? And then a little bit of nextvista.org, my own little nonprofit baby that I birthed. And then there's Holly. All right. Thanks, Holly.
And I just want to talk about online learning ideas. So Matt Miller and I are doing this thing where we're trying to put all the great resources for online learning and distance learning in one place, one hub. And each week we have a big idea. Last week was assessment, and this week has been ditching those worksheets. And so just check that out. That's all. The rest you can click on and do as you like.
Cool beans. Let's see, Jesse.
So one thing I did want to share quickly. So as I mentioned, I'm the Chief Learning Officer for Ready Learner One. One program that we started as a result of COVID-19 to try to support educators was we noticed on Facebook that a lot of people were posting, hey, if you need help with this, you know, I'm a subject area expert in this, or, you know, reach out to help. And we saw that there was no system in place trying to pair educators with each other. So we started a one-on-one support program for educators, pairing up EdTech experts with people in need of support who weren't getting guidance from their school district or help. The program's been really successful. We've actually had over 24 of our friends and colleagues volunteer to provide support for educators. We've been pairing them up with educators, and actually the journal, THE Journal, Transforming Education Through Technology, they just did a 3-page piece on our program yesterday. So we've been super excited that it's been that we've been able to make a difference in this time of need for educators. We don't want any educator to feel like they're alone or isolated and trying to figure this out on their own. But I think the one thing to keep in mind that I just want to kind of share as a words of wisdom, if I could ever be accused of having a word of wisdom, is that just remember, even though we're talking about remote learning and online learning, what you're doing right now at home is not actually remote learning or online learning or distance learning as it was intended. What you're doing is crisis teaching. And we're getting through that, and hopefully we're gonna be able to take the best practices we've seen and that we've learned, and then actually use that to transform education to the next phase where we will be doing meaningful, structured online learning in collaboration with the work we do in our schools already.
Well said, Jesse.
Well,
I got a blog called Inspiring Improvement that I post to on occasion, right? And I'd love for you guys to take a look at that. I'll get that link in the chat. I've written some books. Matter of fact, it's thanks to Holly Clark that I'm an author. The Blue Book is one that is designed to make you a better teacher using very, very short chapters. You can be wolfing down lunch, read a 2-page chapter and go, I'm going to try that after, about 1 o'clock. And then the green one is when teachers get together in order to make what happens at their school all the more exciting for their kids, their community. It gets you kind of fostering and sharing successes in ways that can make what you're doing all the more personally and professionally satisfying for everyone. My newest book, Technology, Teamwork, and Excellence, came out in December from the National Catholic Education Association. That's a book for school leaders and how to use tech to do what you do as a school leader all the better. And our snowbound buddy Richard, we got some stuff for him. He is at practicaledtech.com, freetechforteachers.com, and he has a free handbook on all kinds of great stuff that's out there. Yeah, as we mentioned, he's put so much good content out there for years and years, and he's a wonderful person to go to with questions for all kinds of great things. You can also find all the tutorials he does at bit.ly/RMBYouTube, and so that is a great place to go for some good content as well. So my name is Rushton. It is so good to have you with us, and Holly and Jesse rock and roll. These are people who I contacted mere hours ago to say, oh my God, like my buddy Richard snowed in, could you join in? And they were like, no problem, right? And so that's what comes from having good friends in life.
It took 2 of us to replace Richard Bird. I mean,
well, awesome to have 3 EdTech folks, and as opposed to the usual 2 EdTech guys. So everybody, we hope you'll join in again next week. We are excited about the different possibilities that are out there. Watch your email for the info. And if you have any questions at all, just go to nextvista.org/contact, and we'll make sure that you get what you need. Thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in the very near future.
Thanks, everybody.